I am Nahid Kabbani, and this is the Lighthouse for today's viewers. Welcome to our show. Iraq War started at year 2003, specifically on March 17th, 2003. We are on year 2008, and we are close to March 2008. What we accomplish through this war, what we get done the right way we were planning, if we plan for that war. I believe we went to that war with no knowledge what we will have, because we don't know anything about that area and those people, how they think, how they live, how they will accept that invasion. To send a message for democracy, this is not the way. To do goodies and better things for the whole world, the message will be clear, loud, and easy to accept. But the way we started, the way we did it, people, the whole world, refuse it. And they will continue to refuse it for good. Even we means good. They will not see the goodies in the bad situation, what we have. It happened that at March 8th, year 2003, our friend in KGM studio, our family here, he had me in his show, Beyond the Headlines. And without knowing, he asked me this question: should we go to the war, the Iraq, or no? I was surprised from the question, but immediately I said no. Because I wasn't even sure how to explain the idea that we don't know those people, we don't know what we will have. So why we go also to war? Why we will lose our young men, military men at that war? For sure, we will lose people.
You talk about peace, but there's a threat of war as we speak. What's your take on that situation with Hussein and that whole thing that surrounds, from a woman's perspective?
This is what actually it bothered me, and I cannot sleep actually. Lately I couldn't sleep because of the war situation coming closer and closer. And if there is a war, it will be bad for the whole world, not just Iraq or Middle East. We will have
and some viewers would say, why? Why would it be bad?
First of all, our kids, as American kids, in Iraq to fight, maybe half of them will get killed. Why we lose our kids? First of all, why we lose our army, young men? Yes. They are there for war. Who knows, they will come back or not. True. First of all. Second, what we spend money-wise, we can use it here for better things, to build up our things in our country, in America. Third, the war, if it happens, you will see people, the anger in people getting more and more, and you will see maybe more terrorism. We cannot catch it. Terrorism things, what it happened now, it's not something they teach it in schools or in certain ways. If you have a family and you live in home, and somebody came and kill your son in front of you, or destroy your home on the family, even you are an angel, you will not be an angel anymore after this disaster. Right. The anger in you will
seek revenge.
Sometimes you don't think. You don't control your attitude or your action after this kind of disaster. So how much people, how much young great men we lost, how much young and old and adult and kids, Iraqi kids, lost their life through that war. How long we think we will stay there since we start building bases there. It looks like we will be there forever. What is the main reason to be there? Teach them how to act with democracy? I don't think this is the way to do it. War is war. It's ugly, the ugliest thing you can do. You can control, you can win, you can get what you want with the good side. If you act and give and think with politics, you will win for sure. But with war, with that war, with this kind of war, I don't think we will accomplish something, especially with the out of control situation, with the corruption, what we have there. Financially, we spend a lot, and we will spend a lot of money. We need it badly in our country for our needs here. Not because the war cost that much. No, the corruption also took part of that money and still taking that money to their pockets. Also, a lot of bad groups find it a good chance to do killing or get paid for killing and make the situation difficult, and more unclear, give us bad image around the world. So in any way, let's watch as an educational show that film, what we have now about Iraq war. Let's watch it together.
I'm here because of the sons and daughters, of the tens of thousands of sons and daughters who are still in Iraq facing daily danger. I cannot express, there are no words to express what it's like to lose a child, and to lose a child the way we lost Evan. I was very, very opposed to this action before it started. You know, all the demonstrations that were occurring prior to the war just went flat after March 19th. We are watching our young die. I've buried my oldest child. I don't want to see any other parents go through this. And the way to stop it is to rise up and protest and stop this madness.
They agreed to lay down their lives to protect and defend our country. And the only thing we owe them in return is a promise that their lives will not be wasted.
The Pentagon put out a directive that the press shouldn't be allowed to enter federal property to film either the caskets, funerals, or the body bags that come home as they're offloaded from the planes. They now call them transfer tubes.
We do this memorial every Sunday, honoring the soldiers in this way, to give an opportunity for their families and their friends to have a place to come and grieve. It's a group called Veterans for Peace.
I joined 3 years ago, and I really didn't expect to go to war at all. We have a lot of Marines in our unit that have been going AWOL. Like I said, I'm scared as it is, and I'm pretty sure they're scared and they can't tolerate the fact that, you know, they're going back, and just knowing that they've been there and knowing what they've seen, they don't want to see it again.
At age 17, going into the military teaches you only one thing, and that's how to kill, and that's it. So you want a bunch of kids coming out of service with no help whatsoever, no deprogramming, then that's what you're going to have when you cut the funds. I'm in the VA right now for post-traumatic stress disorder.
They have auditory hallucinations where they hear noises, they can actually hear people. One of the kids told me that when he's out in the sun, and like let's say he's in a climate that's similar to Iraq, he can actually see people with turbans walking around. So he has visual hallucinations. Startle response, when a loud noise go off, they hit the ground. Usually they can't form relationships because they're afraid to get close to people because they lost all their buddies in the combat zone. Things like that. A lot of them start to self-medicate with alcohol or drugs.
What I want this memorial to do is to be able to reach people at every degree that I've experienced, both when I stood steadfastly behind the government, having taken that oath to defend the Constitution, went out and killed for our country, to now where I see them trying to put a Cub Scout uniform on my son, and I see endless war.
If you fight, well, the chemicals, when we're going to the future, it might destroy the earth. You have to meet love to love.
When I was 11 years old, I was watching TV, seeing the news, and at that time it said if you had a son, 11 years old, today, he will be in Vietnam. Lo and behold, I was 11. I'm a Vietnam-era veteran.
I'm going to support the people who are in charge of me, my superiors, and their decisions, and fight for what they believe in because it's what's best for the country. I mean, think about it. Would you like it if the Iraqis came over here and you had tanks patrolling your streets and you had soldiers over here? You know, I mean, they're setting you free and whatnot, but you still wouldn't like it. I mean, you have to look at it from their point of view. They're not happy about it, and they're not glad that we're there. But again, we're doing them a service, you know, after bringing Saddam out of power.
Unfortunately, there's more room for crosses, and before this campaign is over with, there's going to be more crosses put here. 3 years ago, I left the infantry, which is combat arms, and went to combat service support under the impression that I'd be less likely to deploy. But ironically, the majority of the soldiers being killed are truck drivers, which is my new job, 88 Mike. My unit just deployed 2 weeks ago and will be in Iraq for 18 months. We're nothing more than a paragraph and line number based on our education and schooling. A lot of soldiers are under the impression, and this is the rumor, that oil has a great deal to do with why we're over there. You can't really truly know because we are not the decision makers that affect thousands of lives of soldiers.
When I signed a contract, I promised to myself that I was going to defend the Constitution of the United States and the people as well.
Do you know about the Patriot Act?
I'm not really familiar with the Patriot Act. I'm a sergeant, and what I do, I just like to, you know, implement my orders that's given from my superiors. You know, a lot of our troops that are laying here, you know, really die for that flag right there, and you know, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, and that flag is a very powerful flag, and a lot of people need to realize that.
I worked as a load master on 141, so we were the ones that pretty much carried all the bodies home. That included carrying our dead and wounded home to free Kuwait and protect, you know, Kuwait from being taken over. Didn't seem like the real reason. I think, you know, maybe gasoline, oil, maybe. I'm against the Patriot Act. The Homeland Security thing put into big question for me, and especially, you know, if you've read 1984, it freaks you out very much to think that our freedoms are being taken away. So that's one thing I do stand against. And having been in the military, I absolutely stand against it. If anything, that's what we should be trying to protect.
Do you play video games?
I play like some kind of war games. Well, what happens is that I don't want to join the army because what happens is that in my game there's a lot of violence. So what happens is that I'm a little bit worried because I don't like violence.
Do you have anything to say to other children about how to make a peaceful world?
Yeah. No smoking, no using electrical stuff because it might waste the electric, and no throwing stuff in the water because you're gonna pollute the water. No throwing stuff in the air because you're gonna pollute the air. And right now, for me.
Why should I go out there and fight and take my chance of dying or having one of my fellow Marines die for somebody to try to gain something out of this, where we could lose limbs, we could lose, you know, I could lose some of my Marines, then come back, then that'll be it. Just live a messed up life till the day we die. I started getting a lot of numbness on the bottom of my fingers here. And, you know, after a while, you know, carrying a weapon, holding it by the pistol grip, I would get the feeling again of numbness. And then eventually, the longer I held on to my weapon, the majority of my hands started going numb. I think that I succeeded by bringing my troops back to their families, because it was hard to tell, you know, their mothers, fathers, their wives, you know, when they cried to me the day before we left to make sure that I bring them home alive. I told them I would.
A lot of my friends are at the war right now, and it's sad. It hurts to know that some people go for a cause they don't even believe in. They just do it because other people think it's right. I joined for my education. Education is the #1 key to success. I mean, some people aren't born rich, and we have to find our way to succeed in life. And some people choose the military, and that's what I chose.
They're the greatest military in the world, and as they are our protectors, we are stewards of them. And I take that stewardship very seriously. I have a son that's 21 years old. He's over there in Iraq, in the Marine Corps. We're losing the rights just to the government. Look, we got Big Brother watching you everywhere you go now. We're just as bad as the Soviet was down around the Cold War time, you know? We're just as bad now. You got people watching with cameras every move.
We're going over to Iraq in a couple months. We're giving up everything for everybody.
Everyone wants peace, but you can't have, you won't know peace without war. They may not like it, but that's just like, it's like kind of like disciplining a little kid. They may not like it, but it's for their own good, so. That's just, I mean, that's just the way I feel. And we're not over there to occupy or take over. We're making sacrifices. Sorry, America, you're gonna have to make some sacrifices too. You know, it's, you know, yeah, you know, classrooms might be overcrowded, or, you know, yeah, you know, you might have to have a used book. Your school may not be as nice, but, you know, if we're over in Iraq, suck it up, sorry.
I was part of the Operation Iraqi Freedom. They tell us so many things. Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? In reality, we don't actually know who's actually the good guy or the bad guys. But I mean, what I could tell you from my experience being in Iraq, I feel like we're the bad guys. We're invading their territory. For the Iraqis, I think it was 60-1. So each of us that goes down is 60 of them that goes down, which the military say that's not bad. But I mean, just losing one life alone, it's pretty bad enough, you know? If it's us, if it's them, it goes both ways. That's just some person's not gonna be at the dinner table. Well, I wish mothers of America would get back together in this thing, because I mean, it's their children fighting out there. It's their babies, you know? Hopefully, somehow, the government will listen to that, because I believe in Vietnam, that's who they listen to, mothers of America.
The one-year anniversary was a few weeks ago, and I just remembered that the Army called us to find out
what we wanted to do with his arm, because his arm and ear and everything were taken off. And I had totally blanked that out. I completely blocked it out, and it just came back to me.
We heard from Casey's sergeant. He was also Casey's best friend in the military. He told us that he was the one that put together the mission that our son was killed on. He told my son he didn't have to go, and my son said, "Where my chief goes, I go." He said, "Cindy, I'm never going to be able to tell you how sorry I am, because I promised your son I would bring him home alive." And Casey told me that his sergeant said that. He goes, "Mom, my sergeant said you don't have to worry because he's going to bring me home alive." And the sergeant told me, he goes, "Cindy, if I live to be 100, I won't be able to tell you how sorry I am because I failed my mission." Just whenever I think of him, I think of what he's going to be going through the rest of his life, that his best friend died in his arms.
I just want them all to come home. I don't want any more crosses out here on this beach. I really want them to come home, the rest of them to come home safe and sound. There's been too much killing already, both sides.
To lose your only child, I raised him as a single parent, and so we were very close. I was looking so forward to knowing him as an adult and to traveling with him and just watching him grow old. And even though I never really felt his spirit in there, I knew he was dead and gone, but it was still representative of him. And it was just really, really hard.
We started when there were only 504 casualties. The ground upon which the boots sit become hollowed ground.
One thing that I love about George Bush is that he knows he's not the world's greatest military strategist. So unlike politicians in the past, he puts those decisions in the hands of people who are.
One thing Michael told me, it was 6 months ago in one of our conversations, he goes, "Dad, you know that there are 50 contractors a day working here, almost 24/7. And Dad, he goes, they're not fixing, they're not rebuilding. These guys are building brand new facilities. We're building bases. We're building bases in Iraq." He went out there, the tank mechanic that he is, manning a machine gun to kill the Shiites that were trying to kill us. And the Shiites were the ones that, in my recollection tells me, that were the oppressed. These are the ones we went to Iraq to liberate, Shiites. And now my son is killing Shiites, and Shiites are killing my son.
He bought all his equipment. He bought his boots. We bought night vision for him. Patrick was my only child, and he has 2 children, 3 years old and 10. My granddaughter also knew that her daddy wasn't coming back, and she told him. She was watching The Lion King with her daddy, and when Father Lion is being killed in the film, she said, "Daddy, that's you." "Oh, Mom, nothing is going to happen to me because you're praying for me."
I was sent into combat with a half-inch sheet of plywood as my armor. I went to my credit union and took out a loan to purchase my own body armor. People have come up to me and say, "You know, this war isn't about oil. How dare you say that?" And I look at them and say, "How dare you say that to me? I walked an oil pipeline in 148-degree heat. How dare you tell me that this war isn't about oil?" I was told as a medic I was going there to help the Iraqi people, and shortly after arriving there, we were told repeatedly that we could not treat Iraqis unless they were about to die. I was told by my supervisors that, and I'm quoting here, "The Geneva Convention doesn't exist in Iraq." Most of our interpreters were Iraqis. One of them said to me, If you wanted to help the Iraqi people, you should have come as a medic and a teacher, not as a medic and a soldier.
This was one of the first cities to vote against the war, and our vote against the Patriot Act was unanimous. The number today is 717. Perhaps right at this moment as you're talking to me, there's some soldier lying dying in Iraq who will add to that number.
We just put this on a friend's cross, and you know someone and you kid around with them and you joke around with them for a long time, and you come over here and you find out they're dead. I didn't even know he was dead until today.
Recruiters go in there, walking around, talking to people, having seminars. It'll be an everyday thing to see Army personnel walk through our school trying to recruit people.
A concern I have in a lot of the schools is that kids that are not doing very well academically, a lot of the counselors are encouraging them to take an aptitude test to see what occupation they might excel in. But what they're not telling them is that the aptitude test is actually done by the military. And so everybody comes out with the same answer, which means that, you know, whatever occupation you potentially excel at, you can join the military and be trained in that occupation.
General Tommy Franks went into an elementary school in Los Angeles a few weeks ago, and the parents were locked out. They're bringing attack helicopters onto campuses. It's a campaign on the part of the Department of Defense to militarize our children.
I'm 16. In our school, I mean, they would like broadcast like a news channel, and for every commercial, all you ever saw was the Marines.
They try to challenge you, like, are you up to the challenge? Like, can you be all that you can be? And they try to like, they just like have these tricky ways into getting you to join just to become pawns. Like, they don't understand that they're a quota. They're just like a quota to be met at the end of the month.
Arlington West, it gives me a sense of hope. This is like the love of humanity for humanity.
A very, very large concern for families is the thought of a draft, and it would include females, and it also would not excuse anyone who went to college or who sought a higher education. There's a law called Leave No Child Behind that mandates school districts to turn over the personal information, the names, the addresses, and the phone numbers of students. I just wanted to pay tribute today to this female who was killed in action, as more and more females are fighting in combat or in more dangerous roles.
She was the first female soldier from California to die. She was on the helicopter that was shot down where 16 soldiers died. She had a 4-day leave, was the last person on that chopper. We supported my sister, but we didn't support this war.
I was young. I had some family problems. I needed to get out. I joined the military when I was 17. I was looking for an education. The media represents war and violence in a certain way, and you think that no good can come of anything that's happening, and then you see the crosses here and you know there's no reason for these boys and women to be dying.
When you take a look at this, if you join the Army, one of those crosses could belong to you out there.
These people are basically fools and hypocrites for making, basically they're saying that it's wrong to get, you know, that the war was wrong because it caused 800 dead Americans, and as far as I'm concerned, if you don't stand up against somebody like Saddam Hussein, you're as guilty as he is of mass murder. And I think that the people that did this should be put on trial next to him in Baghdad so that they can know what it feels like.
Are you in the military yourself?
No, I'm too weak and cowardly for the military. I let those that are braver and tougher than me fight my battles.
My boyfriend had to leave, which is Malcolm. He wanted to get away because where we live, there's not a lot of gang violence and stuff, and he wanted to get away and do something with his life. He really didn't want to go, but he was forced to go. He didn't want to leave his mom, his dad, and all those people. My heart was broken because he had to go, and he could probably be one of these crosses out here. It's weird. I'm 15 and he's 17. He was like, well, God's with me. I'll be fine and everything, and I was like,
you were president of America, what would you do?
I wouldn't make them go to war. I wouldn't make them pick all the young children to go because they haven't lived their lives. Get the older people, the ones that have lived their lives, live what they wanted to do, and make them go.
I celebrated my 19th birthday in basic training.
And I was 17 when I signed the papers. My parents had to co-sign.
The United States is like, thank you very much for your service and get out of our way because we have a mission. And it's sad because people give their lives for this and they don't understand until families lose someone from, have someone taken from them, or maybe our president would look at it differently if one of his daughters went into combat and was killed, They don't understand until it happens
to them personally.
These men lost their lives. They deserve every respect and from everybody. They made the ultimate sacrifice. Some people don't want us there, some people do want us there, but I think that we're doing good there. It's a lot of bloodshed for what we're doing over there, but still. I'm looking for one of my buddies that was killed clearing a room in Fallujah. I was across the street when it happened. The day I entered the Marine Corps is the day I met him, and we went through from boot camp to Iraq together, so he was like the person I knew from the start of being in the Marines.
Like your brother.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
I have had a couple of generals and bird colonels that I've talked to, and he says, I can't say that, but I can tell you we got sold a bill of goods over there. And as sure as I'm standing here, that's what I'm being told. It's right here at Camp Pendleton, home of the Marine Corps. One guy really got in and helped us set up the crosses and kept the candles going and made friends with everybody. Then we put it up again about a month after that, and one of the first new names was his name. He had died over in Fallujah.
The process in boot camp is to basically tear down your personality and then build you back up as a soldier, a Marine, or a sailor. Family members don't generally understand what's going on. They sent somebody off to the military or off to war, and a different person comes home to them. No matter what they tell us in the news, there are drastic cuts in the VA's budget. They're not able to provide the same kind of services to veterans today that they once were.
A lot of veterans are homeless out here. They have high rankings. I care about what these Marines do. I care. It's my family, the only family that I had out there, and I care for my brothers there and sisters. The VA treated me unfairly.
Could you talk about it?
I'd rather not. It hurts my feelings when I talk about it. If you go to the VA and ask any veteran in that hospital, they'll tell you what it means. It's not a good place to go. It's a place where they practice on you. And it's like being a guinea pig.
They see their names once or twice on the TV screen, and people just forget about those people. These guys here, they've paid the ultimate price, not us, not the people walking on these beaches. There's upwards of 40 attacks per day over there that don't even make it over here. The only ones they really even advertise or publicize is the ones that, or somebody been killed. A casualty anymore, they don't even care about those. We'll never leave. We'll have an embassy there, I feel. Be just like any other place we've gone. Germany, every place we've ever been, Korea. We've got embassies set up everywhere. It'll just be another one there. You need oil, we need oil, we all need it. It's a lot of politics too. It's a great country we live in. It's the best country that this world's ever seen, and it's only going to get better, guaranteed.
That's all that I've really wanted to do is join the Navy SEALs. I've been a Boy Scout for like 8 years, got my Eagle Scout, just wanting to serve for the United States, the greatest nation in the world. What the government's doing is wrong. You guys are out here doing something that the government should be doing for their own soldiers. I knew if I was a soldier that had fallen in battle, I'd want a proper funeral. I wouldn't want people not knowing who I was.
Every single one of these people deserve a televised public funeral, and all they're doing is sending home a folded flag.
When the president covers it up like this, then the Americans wonder, wow, is our president betraying us? Is he trying to hide something from us?
Major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed. Our nation and our coalition are proud of this accomplishment. Yet it is you, the members of the United States military, who achieved it. Your courage, your willingness to face danger for your country and for each other made this day possible.
I saw people die in accidents that should have never happened, killed a lot of innocent people that shouldn't have been killed, especially children. I remember opening car doors and whole families being dead because we were supposed to tell them to stop, but the way that Iraqis got it were hello. That to us will mean stop, but to the Arab world it means hello. Nobody really understood the culture of the Arab world, and so we killed hundreds of innocent people, and our soldiers are the ones that have to live with it. The Pentagon doesn't talk about the real number. They only talk about the killed in action. But soldiers, as well as Marines and everybody that's been committed suicide, have died of heart attacks, diseases. The real number is in the thousands now. It's not in the 900s. He was killed by an IED in Baghdad. When his vehicle turned around, he exploded. He was my twin brother. He was looking so forward of getting out of the military. He was fed up with his command and with the military BS. And he wanted just to get out and be a normal person. And I said, well, I gotta go. And he's like, yeah, you gotta go. So do I gotta do patrolling. And I said, well, I'll talk to you later and goodbye. It's like, no, it's not goodbye. It's until we meet again. His last words. Not even goodbye. And he kind of knew he wasn't coming back.
He was 19. He was supposed to come home actually a couple of weeks before he was killed. Because of the stop-loss laws, he was forced to stay in the army. My parents are from Iran and were Muslim, but he was born in the United States and he considered himself an American. He died an American.
I worked communication and navigation systems maintenance on board the E-3 AWACS. Our own soldiers are being killed by our own munitions, munitions that are technically banned by the Geneva Conventions. Depleted uranium is something that's very scary. It's been in use since the first Gulf War. And this dust, the depleted uranium shell explodes and it gets pulverized, turned into dust, goes into the air, gets into the food supply, water supply. And because of that, we're seeing a greater instance of birth defects among Iraqis and American children also. So there is one member in Congress that has a son in the military, just one out of how many hundreds of members of Congress. It's just a prime example of the separation of the ruling class and the poor in America. The Patriot Act is something that our current administration really tries to hide and keep the people from knowing in depth about. I think our soldiers will be outraged at the fact that they're fighting supposedly for our freedom, but our freedoms are being taken away at the same time. We started off a new organization called Iraq Veterans Against the War in Boston. I just feel the need to speak my mind. I'm not afraid of anything at this point. The truth needs to be told.
Not only is my son fighting with an M16, he's treating the wounded, so he's seeing the pain and suffering. These are babies, the babies. He was delivering pizza before he left.
Yeah.
When he first called, one of his questions was, do we Americans realize how many of our men are getting hurt over there? He was astounded by it. And we don't hear that.
He was concerned that the media is not really
Covering
making
it.
clear to it.
They're
to
not
the public.
covering how they're getting hurt.
Things got bad over there, and he got injured, and then he died later. So I'm paying my respects to my best friend.
I'm just paying my respects to a Marine that I worked with for 2 years, and I found out 2 days ago that he died, saving 2 other Marines' life. He pushed them out of the way because a grenade was thrown right in front of him, and he took it instead.
One of the captains for one of my units, he got his arm blown off by an RPG out there. So he's still in the Marine Corps, but he's only wearing a hook now for a hand.
I know there's a lot of people. I have a couple people down in Washington, D.C., and that are at the hospital there that a couple guys have lost their legs.
It was a 1 in a million shot. It was actually a light armor weapon. It hit the vehicle, and a small titanium rod went through the vehicle. It hit 3 of us in the leg, right at the femur. So they lost legs. Everybody survived. When we first got there, we didn't have anything. MRE a day with the hot water, and they had families bring us chicken, lamb. I mean, it was great. We did raids, patrols, you name it, we did it. It's our country. I mean, if they want it back, they're gonna have to step up to the plate.
How is the VA treating your injury?
Anything I need, they take care of. There's actually an amputee soccer league. Countries that are always fighting in wars, they have leagues. We play soccer on crutches with 1 leg. Just because I lost a leg, life is not over. I mean, I've done stuff like people wouldn't do on 2 legs. I'm proud of what I did.
I've had a liking into the Marines for about 7 years. I've been watching military shows. They train you a lot, but when they send you out, it's like you have to depend on everyone around you and yourself mostly, and that the country's depending on you. I would be willing to give my life for this country. The Army games I play, they help me a little to decide what choices to go, where to run to, and try to take shelter a lot and try not to get shot. I have cards of the Marines. I have their numbers and stuff. If I ever want to join, I could just call them.
I've seen a lot of people getting killed left and right. I've seen a small kid step on a mine out there, and he just blew apart. And I feel so bad, you know. I mean, this little kid is so innocent. He's like 6 years old, just playing around out there, and all of a sudden, we just hear a big explosion. And we went out there, and we seen this little kid just torn into pieces. I feel so bad, but it's too late already. Like, if I go to sleep at night, once in a while I'm having that flashback that it's just a continuous, like a repeated occurrences that something is blowing up left and right.
I feel that the reason why there's so many, there's high, suicidal over there is I don't think they can handle it, emotionally, psychologically. I don't think they can handle what's happening to them, what they're being asked to do. They probably imagine the family that they're killing is like their own family. And I probably would do it myself too.
Killing another human being, I cannot describe it. It's hard. I mean, if you're gonna give me a rifle right now and shoot somebody else that I know he got family out there, he got a kid, and he's a human being, eating, drinking, anything that a human being do every day. I don't know if I could kill that person. It's hard to have a weapon and just aim at that person and kill him right on the spot.
We had 30 Marines come to visit. One guy started with the first row down there, and he went to the last row over here, and he counted 29 names. 29 of servicemen and women that he trained. He helped train these people. When he got through, he started crying. One Marine told me also that he said he watched a guy one day shoot his foot just to get out of Iraq. His last words before he left, he said, "Why me?" And why does this have to go on?
Why do people who make under $20,000 a year have to die for people that make over $20,000 a year just so they can go to school? Because these kids join so they can get money to go to college because their families can't afford it. And now some of them are dead. I'm homeless. A lot of veterans living on the streets. A lot of them are drunks and drug addicts. When a veteran goes to the VA for help, he kind of sits there for hours and hours and hours waiting, so it isn't even worth it to some of them to go. They get cuts and infections and fall down drunk and break an arm, and they never go to the hospital. They expect you when you join the service to especially when you go to war. They don't expect to see a live veteran.
My son died in Iraq on March 27 in 2003. He was the first Marine died in this immoral war. And the government lied me about what happened to my son. The government told me the first Jesus died when received the shot in the head in combat with the enemy fire. But I find it true, and the truth is very different. Jesus died when they stepped the American cluster bomb. There's a lot of boys here, a lot of names, beautiful boys, younger, very younger, 19, 20, 21 years only. My family is the 1,000 boys in Iraq right now, and we need to come back home as soon as possible. And the 1,000 Iraqi children died. For what? For liberation? No. The recruiting go to inside the school and lie the boys about the benefits for a school, benefits for anything, and this one is not true. The boys not receive the money for a school. This money is for the own salary. My son pay every month $100 for a scholarship. It's not from the government. It's very important. The old people in America stand. This is the real face for the war.
He was Filipino. Never got to see his baby. He's 22. He's 22 years old. Son Jordan, left behind 3 kids. Both really good soldiers. I joined before 9/11, so I joined pretty much to get my GI Bill so I can go to college. My family can't afford for me to go to college. We all went out there for freedom, to liberate the people from Iraq, but maybe probably just went for the wrong reasons. Things you do out there is you don't wish on your worst enemy to do.
صباح الخير.
صباح النور.
شلونك؟
أنا زين وأنت؟
أنا زين شكرا. شو اسمك؟
اسمي فاطل وأنت؟
اسمي مراد. تشرفنا.
أهلا وسهلا. He said,
I said
good morning.
Good morning.
I replied,
good morning.
Good morning.
Return.
And then he said, how are you doing today? I said, I'm doing good. And you? And he said, oh, I'm doing good. What's your name? My name's Fathel.
And I said, my name is Murad. And I said, nice to meet you. And then he said,
you're welcome.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you as well.
We are with the Iraqi oil workers of Basra. Our country is rich in oil, but we're still poor. I was happy to see the children in the United States are playing without the noise of tanks and bombs. And that's what I hope for the children of Iraq, to play in peace just like the children here in the United States.
I joined, I think, like a lot of people did, to get an education, to defend our nation. The biggest thing that I saw that changed my mind was all the poor people. When people asked, they'd throw flowers at you. No, they were just begging for food constantly. And everywhere we went, you know, they'd be on the side of the road going like this all the time. That's all they did. That's all they cared about, you know. To them, I think, whether Saddam is there or us or anybody else, they're still hungry, starving. There's still no food.
We did constant bomb raids, day in, day out. Those bombs that we were dropping, probably only about 1% were actually hitting enemies. They're doing medical experiments on the troops. If you didn't take the vaccinations, then you'd be, sent to the brig, imprisoned. I'm having migraine headaches, pulsating, horrible pounding. My eyes would fill up with blood. One of the guys hung himself off the side of the ship. I know 2 guys in this memorial that were killed in combat. I know at least 7 guys that committed suicide, and some of them killed their entire family before they committed suicide because they weren't given proper psychological counseling, because they were giving that whole facade of suck it up, be tough. And what exactly does support your troops mean? Does support your troops mean support the war, support sending them to war, support resending them into the combat zone with post-traumatic stress, pumping them full of psychotropic drugs and putting them behind a 50 caliber machine gun, sending them into a village full of innocent Iraqi people? If you want to put one of those ribbons on your car, you should say support your troops and then add bring them home, because you're just destroying an entire generation of people.
We met, fell in love, and were married in a very short amount of time, and had 5 beautiful months together. 2 weeks ago, he took his life while I was gone in Paris with my mom celebrating her 60th birthday. And he didn't leave a note. He just left an image of him in his full Iraqi uniform. He was very proud of the service he did for our country. He did 3 tours in Iraq and volunteered for the last one to be with his friend. He did suffer from major post-traumatic stress and nightmares, and he was seeking counseling with the VA. A psychiatrist prescribed Prozac. I'm not a doctor, but I think there could be some adverse effects from that medication that need to be looked into. In our vows on the beach, he said he never understood why he was the only survivor of his convoy accident until he had met me, and that's when we got married in Malibu. He used to call me his angel because I had saved him, from the darkness that he had so much inside him from the war.
I was a kid and I wanted to be a man. That was the biggest thing I wanted to learn, and I wanted to be a Marine because they were the toughest. I have to ask myself what I'm doing every day. Would this bring glory to the Lord? And in His eyes, would He approve of what I'm doing? And no, He would not approve of war. I know Jesus does not believe in killing and eye for an eye and stuff like that, but we're not Jesus either. And I believe that we have to defend what is ours.
I'm a veteran of the Iraq War and Afghanistan. I had a grenade go through my kneecap. Doctor said by the time I'm 35, I won't be able to walk without a cane or a walker. I have flashbacks about every day. Pictures running through my head of scenes I don't want to remember. When a helicopter flies, I hit the deck.
Did you make friends with any of the Iraqis?
No, ma'am. Not while I was killing their husbands.
Did you ever feel like you'd like to talk to the children, or?
Yes, ma'am, but I felt bad because I might have killed their dad.
How do you feel about that now, on Father's Day, knowing that a lot of those kids don't have fathers?
I feel bad.
Are you a father?
Yes, ma'am. I have 2 daughters. I was in Afghanistan when one was born, Iraq when the other one was born.
And what did you do exactly?
Shot people and got shot at.
How old were you when you joined?
17. My family's been in the Marine Corps for 4 generations. He doesn't believe in war and killing, but if you read the Old Testament, God said there's always going to be war. There'll be periods of peace, but there'll never be times when we're not at war somewhere.
Would you have your own child join?
Yes, ma'am.
Why is that?
Because I think it's something everybody should do.
I jumped into this Iraqi command bunker and I found this book. I realized that Iraqis could buy whatever they wanted from British companies. Equipment that was better than what we had. One guy in our platoon found a night vision scope, British made. We had nothing like it in the Marine Corps. Those same war hawks that say go to war, the same ones saying, well, while you're at it, can you buy our stuff? It's written like a Sears catalog. They offer a wide range of surface warships expertly designed to individual customer requirements. They can buy a submarine. And here's a company with the phone number. You can order your own with missiles to boot. Doesn't matter what government, whether they're a dictator, a totalitarian regime, what their human rights record is. If they've got the bucks, they'll get the bombs.
I spent 27 years as a CIA analyst. Our job was to speak truth, not only to the president and our leaders, but to the American people. There was a middle-level CIA official. He said, and I quote, "Look, the president is going to go to war. It's our job to give him a reason to do so," quote unquote. It's just not only a perversion of the intelligence process, it's a perversion of the Constitution. We have documentary evidence, black and white, from the Downing Street memo that as early as July of 2002, the president, as the British reported, decided he would make war on Saddam Hussein in Iraq, and that the, quote, intelligence and facts would be fixed around the policy. It saddens me greatly that none of my former colleagues, and there are hundreds who knew about this misuse of intelligence, not one, took it to the American people.
Too many people see the number and just see it as just that. They don't realize that they're somebody's child attached to all those numbers and families that are pretty much devastated.
This Veterans for Peace, it's a good idea. And it's very, very high in the sky stuff, but it doesn't work. Because if you're going to fight these people, you have to fight them on their own territory. I don't want to fight them in Los Angeles. I don't want to fight them on Redondo Beach. I'd rather fight them in Iraq or fight them in Afghanistan.
Did you say that you lost a son?
I sure did, 14 days ago.
You have 4 sons that are in the military?
I have 4 sons, that's right. 3 of them in the military. I've got one in Afghanistan and one in Iraq right now, and I've got one in the ground. But he loved this country. And he understands that you have to, freedom is not free, you have to pay for it. You have to go do it.
Yeah.
And if you stand around and just say, oh, let's all get along. I would love to be able to do that. My wife is she's a Christian missionary. She works for Verizon International. You know what an infidel is? To a Muslim? You know what you are to a Muslim? Are you Muslim? I'm sorry. If you're Muslim, I take it back. But if you're a Christian or some other Zen Buddhist or whatever you are, if you're not a Muslim, you realize that you don't have a soul, right? You didn't know that?
If we could open our eyes and have understanding, especially for the children, to teach them the truth about what is Islam, what is Judaism, what is Christianity, and how they are all connected, and that we may find peace with one another because God is one, Kullahu Ahad. When we say Salam Alaikum, it means peace be to you. And you say back Alaikum Salam, peace be back to you. We need to learn that, to really love one another.
Day is done, gone are sons from the earth.
He did say that he felt guilty, that he had survived, and that his fellow soldiers had not survived, and he felt very guilty about that. He said, "Why me? I didn't understand, why did I survive?" And I said, "Well, maybe you survived to tell the story." Then he slowly got up. I went to go to the board to write the names. He wanted to write the names of his fellow soldiers.
day is done, gone our sons from the earth, from the sea, from the sky. All is well. Lay to rest. God is nigh.
I'm the Nisqually Indian from the state of Washington. I'm a Korean War veteran, served in the United States Navy. But what we're doing over there is the same thing we did in Korea and Vietnam. We can't win. It's a waste of life. You cannot change somebody's way of living. This country had nothing to do with 9/11. I was asked one time what I thought about America. And I says, before there was, we were.
In high school and junior high, I would get up in the morning and would go put the flag out on the porch. And I just felt such an overwhelming, almost a spiritual feeling of pride in my country. That really started changing once I got in the military. When I began to learn more about foreign policy and how it's applied across the world and how racist it is. It made me from being super patriotic to more and more ashamed, more ashamed.
Of the 1,000+ lives that have been lost in Iraq, nearly 200 of those lives have been Hispanics. And of those, about 100 of them are not even citizens of this country. Could you imagine the sacrifice and the courage, the unselfishness of an individual who will say, you know what, I'm so willing to come and live in this country and make this place home that I'm willing to put my life on the line, and even though they still won't call me a citizen and they still won't let me vote.
They promised to him good things when they come back, college. They lied us. I give my son on life, my son come back dead.
I ended up in a position where I was asked to ferry 3,000 Marines to Iraq. It was asking a lot more than that. It was asking to, for the rest of my life, live with the fact that I took 3,000 Marines, knowing maybe 100, 200, 300 might not come back, and knowing that they were going to leave their souls over there. Whether they left their life or not, they were going to leave their souls over there. I showed up to the pier in 32nd Street Naval Station, civilian clothes with a shirt that said, like a cabinet member, I resign.
A hand grenade was thrown in my vehicle. I grabbed it to try to throw it back out, and it went off in my hand. Blew my hand off, shattered my legs, almost blew my left foot off. I saw myself all mangled. When the grenade went off, I didn't get knocked out. Being back is probably harder than Iraq, I think. I mean, I tried to work, didn't work out. I tried to go to school, there's too many people around. I feel like I don't fit in.
It's a sham to honor the name of the hollow dead by the agenda-driven people of this anti-war movement. All I would have to say to the kid, to the children, is that sometimes war is the answer, and you have to have the wherewithal that you're not sidetracked by minor things like this prison abuse. But to say that this is just honoring the veterans is a sham. Out and out sham.
Are you veteran?
Yes, Vietnam. Well, I was in the Air Force, so nothing happened much today. It was
You
the
didn't
horror.
have active combat?
No.
There's a name for every one of these crosses. There's a father, there's a son, there's a brother, you know? I was over there from February to October during the war and after war. I did it because it was my duty, it was my obligation, you know? Would I do it again? I don't think so. It seems like a lot of us are being lied to, you know? because I feel like I fought for nothing. I was there, and I saw no reason. It's not the media I don't trust, it's just the government, because I was there and I saw exactly what happened in the war, and I hear what they tell everybody, and a lot of it doesn't match. You come back and you don't know how to deal with things. You're afraid of everything. It's a lot of stress, a lot of paranoia, and it's not worth what you do over there, because you have to live with this for the rest of your life.
I am the former Brigadier General Janice Karpinski from the U.S. Army. I do know from serving in Iraq that women were subjected to sexual harassment, sexual assaults, and physical rape, not by a local population, but by soldiers serving with them or around them in the same combat zone. I heard females complain and said to me, we're not getting any response. This is what happened. Women kept hearing from their commanders, you know, there's a war going on. We have more important things to do.
I signed up on the morning of September 11th. After I finished signing my contract, my recruiter came and said, oh, you should see what's on television. Something just hit the World Trade Center. When I was at Abu Ghraib, we had heard rumors about those abuses going on. And we really didn't believe it. But military officials came to us and said, if you've heard anything, don't say anything back home. If you have any incriminating photos, destroy them. There was a disturbance where the prisoners were protesting their living conditions, and they were throwing stones at the guards and hit one of the military police in the face. In response, the military opened fire on the prisoners and shot 12 of them, killing 3 of them. And I remember the guy who shot them was showing me the photographs, and our command even posted these grisly photographs up in our headquarters. It was horribly disillusioning to see guys bragging about having shot unarmed men. I'm worried, tormented by it sometimes to this day. If you like being bossed around in high school, you'll fit right in the military. Imagine if your teachers could do anything they want to you, yell at you, get in your face. They lived with you, and they had guns.
I'm a recruiter for peace. I'm a recruiter for the Army. We recruit for an army to deter war. See, there's a difference there. It's sad they paid the ultimate sacrifice, but we all know, every person in uniform knows that maybe that's what they have to do. I'm honest with all of my recruits. Half my kids, I got 40 kids there overseas right now. The draft, no, we're not the draft. Everyone keeps talking about that. Oh yeah, draft this, draft that, draft this, whatever. Yeah, it's 2 measures. It's in Congress. Guess what? It's on the sideline. It's not going to happen.
Recruiting's down. What are they going to do?
Recruiting is down? Well, you know what? No one could tell the future. You know, is it going to rain tomorrow? Or is it going to snow tomorrow? We don't know. You know, what is the state of world affairs going to be next year or the year after that? We don't know.
When I was 19, I was drafted in the Army. When they say we're not going to go to war somewhere, I believe the opposite. We are going to go to war somewhere. Look at the newspaper accounts of the recruiting goals not being met. When they can't replenish their forces, they got to get them from somewhere. When you have a draft, it affects all Americans, the children of all the parents of America. You know, I wanted to be a selective service member because the last war, there was a disproportionate amount of other minorities that served and were drafted and didn't come back. And this time I said I want to be part of, you know, making sure the process was fair. I was interviewed over the phone and was told I qualify. I'll be a member of 5 people.
When I was in Iraq, I actually thought that family and friends forgot about us. It was real lonely, and all we had was each other out there. When I came back, we had concerns with depleted uranium. A couple of gentlemen, including myself, were tested. Some were tested by an independent company, and they said that we had depleted uranium within ourselves. The military claims that it's all within normal limits. We had guys that had problems mentally, blurred vision, burning sensation every time I went to the bathroom, decreased sexual function, weakness, lower back pain, headaches. These were all symptoms that were all confirmed by all my other friends that were there with me, and the Army hospital, they said there was no test. I dream about losing limbs, getting ambushed. I dream about getting shot up, being with friends, and the next thing you know, I'm in a round table with no one else but myself.
While I was over there, a lot of the injuries that were occurring were because of our own weapons. I went through my own doctor to get a physical because I believe the military doctors are not going to tell you everything, and if they do find something on you, they're not going to blame it on this war. They're going to blame it on something else. They do ask us when we come back if we were exposed to certain things, and a lot of people were. At the beginning, there was really nobody over there to tell us where to go or what to stay away from. I feel like I'm fighting for something I don't believe in. It seems like a massacre. A lot of people don't know what they're fighting for. We don't know why we're helping them. A lot of the Iraqis don't want us there. They feel they could do it on their own, and a lot of people have turned on us, and we've lost a lot of people because of that.
When you wear that uniform and see things like this, it reminds you of why you joined and what the uniform stands for. It's when soldiers are getting out, and Marines. They go into 4 years of active duty, and then they go in 4 years in active reserve. They're going into what they call calling people back. That's their way of a backdoor draft. So when you get out, you're actually not getting out, and they'll call you back. I feel like it's pretty much all for nothing, because I want to know why I'm going over there. I want to know why I'm going to die. I mean, I just turned 20, and if I'm going to go over there and I'm going to die, I want to know why. We aren't even in combat. We're in peacekeeping, and we're losing more lives than we did in the major combat. So something needs to be done here.
Well, if this is peacekeeping, what do you think war would look like?
That's a good question.
I was an 8-year veteran of Army and National Guard, and I was about to graduate from college. They took my unit into the armory, and they announced that everybody who was about to get out had been extended to the year 2031. I got to witness the war firsthand, and I got to see the killing of civilians and torture. I decided not to go back to Iraq, and I denounced the war. 2 months later, I was tried, and I was sent to prison for 12 months, and I've been speaking out against the war ever since. You're being shot at, and you're shooting back, but you know, in the middle of all this hell, you always find a time to see the beauty in the country and the people. Going to jail was like, in a way, redemption. Being in a tough environment, it was nothing, because you come from a Sunni Triangle city and you're being fired upon with rocket-propelled grenades, so you go to a jail, you know, a tough guy doesn't really scare you. It's really empowering to know that you're free in so many other ways, because you actually listen to your conscience and you followed it, so you go in there knowing that you're a free person.
I held a press conference outside my base, declaring myself a conscientious objector. I was court-martialed in the military and sentenced to 6 months in the brig in North Carolina. The media was very hostile to any dissent. And at that point, it was the Dixie Chicks, the Pope, Michael Moore, and me. If you can survive boot camp, you can definitely survive the brig.
The corporate mentality states once you cannot be a part of the means of production, then that means that you're not any good. The same thing is said for these veterans here, and the same thing is said for the ones who are walking wounded after any war. War takes the joy out of people, and you can't bring that joy back.
My only child. I don't know how I'm supposed to live the rest of my life without him. He was the center of my universe. People tell me that my son was a hero. Little did they know, he was my hero long before he died. It's too late for my son, and it's too late for my family. But we should stop now before it's too late for 1,500 more.
I was afraid for him because I had lost my dad in Vietnam when I was 8 years old. I was having a really hard day, really missing my son. He was only killed 2.5 months ago in Baghdad. And I was feeling really, really sad, missing him, and just wanting him to come home, and knowing that he wasn't. The last time I talked to Joel was on a webcam 3 weeks before he was killed, so I actually saw him. He told me probably 4 or 5 times that day, I love you, I miss you, I can't wait to come home.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming?
I enlisted with the help of my best friend's mother that signed for me. God rest my mother for not signing for me. I would tell the children, think first of your mother. She's gonna cry the hardest. Think first of your brothers and sisters. They're gonna miss you terribly. I don't feel lucky standing here. I've wondered many a night, how in the world do my squad evaporate? And I stand here. People that you saluted taps with, people that you went on leave with, people that you jived with and partied with when you were not in country, people that you swore to death with, to the death with, evaporate, blown to pieces, no bigger than pieces of specks that you see on the sand. And you wonder, how in the world does that happen? How is that capable of happening? One minute you're laughing in country and the next minute you're trying to pick up their body part. It's all coming back in a rush. My advice to children, think of another form of trying to help, because I believe that that would be the only reason you would want to join the military, is to help your parents, give you a better education, to give you a better life. Think of a better way than the military. If you then, after all that is said, still think about joining the Rangers, don't.
I admire your courage, and I was thinking of going to war, but now that I see all these deaths, it makes me realize that I don't want to go to war. War is not the answer. And may God be always with you. You're in a better place. No more killings. Innocent people are dying. Children are dying in Iraq, what I've read. They're dying and they don't need to die. These people were young. I know they are, because I've been sent by the Army to go, and I've been reconsidering it, but because I need the money for college. But I said, no, it's not the answer. So I just admire you, all of you, and you too.
It's sad to see that. It's sad to see cross just saying there is a guy, there is a young man, a father, a military man sleeping here or there. It's really sad. But again, what we are looking for, what is the plan for next year? Not for 10 years. The oil is a big factor, but it will not balance with people's life, American people's life and Iraqi people's life. So please, let's our governor and our future president, our future head of this country, think the way it should be to fix up this mess, and let us go out with dignity. There is a lot of ways to do better and win. Just think again and again. With God's help, if we have the ability to look for God to help us, we will do better. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.